Hi everybody, thanks for joining me. This is Leanne with Homemade Creations. We're going to make some fireworks. So I'm going to do some that are based in white and some that are based in brown. And then I'm going to be using some stickers to make the stars and some painter's tape for the stripes and things like that. And then I'll paint other colors on top. So let's get started. I had some white out here earlier and I'm just going to use some more of that. And I have this on a cookie sheet with a piece of wax paper just so that it will be easy for me to move it off of here so that I can work on other projects while it's drying. So that's all that's about. Some of these have some big chunks out of them, but I'm doing small, medium, and large. So what I'll end up doing is putting three together like that, and so I'll put some of that part that's not looking good on the inside. I had some paint left over from another project I was doing, so I'm just going to go ahead and use it, and then we'll get some more out.
I'm going to use Java brown paint and water here to create a stain. I will brush it on the majority of the piece of wood, and I'll take my baby wipe and wipe it off while I'm also adding that stain to the rest of the wood that I didn't paint. It works out pretty well that way. I'm here in Cricut Design Space, and I'm going to choose a couple of shapes. I'm going to choose the star and the square so I can start getting my shapes right for the pieces of wood for the fireworks. And with the square, I'm going to unlock the dimensions so that I can make it a little longer. Piece of wood is about 2 inches wide. I've got one piece that's about 4 inches, one piece that's about 6, and maybe one that's 7, something like that. I'm going to go ahead and make it blue just so I can get my coloring right. I would like to make one of my fireworks solid blue with a star on top. As you can see here, I'm trying to put my star on here and it's below. So I've got to change my position and move it to the front. So we'll go ahead and make it white so I can see how this is going to look. As I put it on here, I see that I think it's a little bit larger than I think I want it. I'm going to leave the ratios locked and just make it a little bit smaller so I think it fits a little bit better. I'm just going to duplicate that square, now it's a rectangle shape, so that I can make some more. I'm going to change this one to make it a little bit taller so we can kind of see how these will look against and beside of each other. I want some stripes on this one, so I'm going to duplicate this size again, and I'm just going to shrink it and make it smaller so it'll look more like the stripes. I don't want them to come all the way up to the top, so I'm just manipulating the size to get it right, and then I'm going to change them to red and white and duplicate them to go across the width of the piece of wood. Once I get the sizing about correct, I'm just going to select each one of them and then I'm going to align it to the bottom so they're all lined up straight here, just to make it look a little bit neater. I'm going to want some stars here on the top part of this as well, so I'm going to, once I get my stripes fixed here, I'm going to click on that star and duplicate it to do some different sizes here. One of my fireworks, I think I want just a 1 star at the top, but on some of my other fireworks I'm going to want several stars at the top of this one, so I just would like them to be a variety of sizes. I'm going to keep that ratio locked so that the dimensions stay the same for the star. I can just change the size, and I'm just going to continue to do that on several of these. Next, I need to make me a square that's going to kind of represent the mat for my Cricut, that I'll be able to put my vinyl on to go into my Cricut. I have a 12 by 12 mat that I'm going to be using for this. I need to make the square just a little bit smaller than 12 by 12 because the actual cutting area is not quite the full 12 by 12. Once I do that, then I'm going to get my stars lined up here so that I can get as many stars and stripes on this one mat as possible, and then I'll lock it in so it'll be ready to print. So here I'm just pulling these little stars over here, and I'm just going to kind of put them in here, kind of piled on top of each other as close as I can get them, because for this project I'm going to be doing a reverse stencil, so I'm going to be actually pulling the stars off of the vinyl, so it should be pretty easy even if they're this close. I'm going to do the same thing for the stripes. I'm going to unlock the dimensions here so that I can keep them the same width, just make them longer that will fit all the way across my piece of vinyl, and then I'm just going to duplicate that over and over and get them lined up here on this mat that I'm using, this blue square that I'm using to represent my mat. That way I can see how many, just trying to be efficient and get as many pieces on here and cut out as possible for the fireworks that I'm going to be doing. I'm teaching a class on this later in June, so I need to just have lots of these available. I've kind of got the stripes fixed like I want them. I've got a section of stars up here at the top that I like, so I'm going to move this blue square out of the way. I'm going to group all of these stars together and then just duplicate them as a group. Then I'm just going to line them up as far as I can get them to go across, so that they will all fit still on this mat, and see how many stars I can get in here. And you can see I can't do a full another set of this, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to ungroup this set and then just duplicate several stars here just to fill up this edge here so that I can make good use of the vinyl. Once I get enough stars that will fit all the way across, I'm going to click on them and group that whole piece so that then I can just copy that whole line and put just to be able to put as many on here as possible. Just going to make sure I save my project here. I'm going to click and drag to group this whole section and turn in the same color because I'm going to be printing this on my Oracle 631, which I use as my stenciling vinyl. It sticks well enough to work around, but it pulls back off without pulling the paint underneath it. So I've got that fixed now. Now it's time to make it. I'm going to go over here, and as you can see, I didn't attach all of the pieces, so it put them in all different orders. I'm going to go back and I'm going to pull them in here, and I'm going to attach this, and then I'll be able to print it. I'm just going to pull my vinyl off here and create my stickers. I'm not necessarily going to measure how far apart I'm putting them. I'm just getting them on here and just kind of doing a general fix here. I don't want them perfect. Once I get them all on here, I will go back around and smooth out the edges to make sure everything is adhered well, because I'll be painting red on top of this to create the red and white stripes. I apologize, but somehow I managed to not get the recording of me painting the actual fireworks. So I used crimson, nautical, and the brown wax to paint my items. I used the makeup sponge and got a little bit of paint on my sponge, wiped a whole lot of it off, and then sponged over each of the stencils that I had on there, the different colors that I did. I did sort of a reverse stencil, as you could tell, because I put the stencils, the actual item on, and I painted what was left over. So for example, on the one that's solid blue with the white star, I put the star on the block while it was solid white, and all of the space left over I painted blue, so then when you removed the star was still white. So that was the process and how I did that. I'm not sure why I didn't get the recording of it, but that's what happened.
I'm going to take my finger sander and just go back and forth on here just to scuff it up a little bit. So there's the difference. So I'm going to do that with all of them. I like that. Now, as far as these go, I may leave them like they are, just because they're already pretty distressed looking. That way they'll look like that. Although they've got some rough spots, I may have to sand just a little bit just to get them smooth again. Alright, so we've got that. We've got this one. We've got this one. And then we've got this one. Do that one, and then do the stain on this one. I think the stain will probably look really good on this one. And then I don't know about these two. Alright, so I'm just going to put me some out here on this, the other side of this where I had the white. I'm going to wet my brush just a smidgen and then get my antique wax going. Just like this, and then I'm going to wet my paper towel and see about wiping it back off. Okay, that turned it pretty dark. Let's see how we like it. It'd be nice to have a little more water to that, make it a little more runny. There we go. I kind of like that. Okay, everything's had a chance to dry, and it's time to put little holes in the tops of them so that I can do the little wicks that will come out like the fireworks. And I have it's Think Learn from my drill and my hot glue gun. So I specifically did it that way so that they would use the same batteries and I wouldn't have to keep up with a ton of different batteries. So that works out pretty good. So I'm just going to switch it over. And I have this handy dandy little set of drill bits that my husband got for me that has one of everything. That will do it nice and easy. So I just need to decide what's the up. This one all makes sense because this is the top. We know what's the top here, so I'm just going to put them here and drill a hole right in the top. I'm just going around just a little bit there at the top just to make it a little bit bigger, just honestly just to make it easy. If I was doing much drilling, I'd have to stand up to do this, but this is a small amount, so I think I'm okay.
I'm on a free printable site here that allows you to copy and paste and use these images however you would like. And so I'm just looking up some different patriotic ones. Just looking for different ones that I might put on those tags that I made that I want to make that to go onto the fireworks. And so when I find an image that I want, I'm just going to mash the on my keyboard. I'm going to click the Windows key, the Shift key, and the S key all at the same time, and that lets you do a print screen. You just drag the box however much of the screen you want to print or capture. I'm just here in a Google Doc, and I'm just coming right here beside of where I was. I'm doing Control V in order to paste the image. And when the image comes up like this, I'm going to grab it, make it smaller, and then I've got it going. So I can make these a little bit bigger so you can kind of see what we're looking at. These are some of the ones that I've been working on.
In order to print the images that I want to print on tissue paper, this is just tissue paper from the Dollar Tree. Just regular tissue paper. I'll take me a piece here. And this is just regular copy paper here. Just need one sheet. I'm going to lay this out here. And I'm just going to give myself some extra room. You don't have to do this much room, but I'm just leaving myself some extra room to pull this over and fold it. So just going to do a real quick cut here. And then all I'm going to do is take and fold it. So I'm just going to take and fold it over and tape it. I usually tape it all the way across. That's probably not necessary either. I just don't want it sticking in my copier, in my printer, and messing stuff up. So I'm just going to scoop my page all the way and pull this back on top. Nice and tight. Just make sure you're not too tight, of course. Just tight enough to keep that tissue paper nice and straight. I'm just going to put this right in the back of my printer, just like I would put in a regular page. I just send it to print, and here it comes. But I'm just going to paint over all of them. I'm just going to paint them white. The tissue paper that I'm planning to put over top of it, if you've got a white background, it just seems to make it a little more clear and crisp. And then I will distress the edges and all that kind of thing. So I'm just using my regular white. Alright, we'll let them continue to finish drying there, and then I'm going to bring the tissue paper that we just printed on in here, and we will work on getting it piece of wax paper down just so that the paper doesn't stick to this. I'm just going to go around the outside edge here and just trim this up so we can quickly get rid of the paper, the carrying paper that helped carry it through the printer. And then I can use that paper again if I need to. Alright, so the way I like to tear these is with water. And so I'm just going to hold these over and just see what fits. So that one fits fine. These are going to fit in here. Oh yeah, look, that's going to fit well. I like to just take a thin paintbrush and I just dip it in my water, just get it a little bit wet. And then I'm just going to go right down through here and make my spot that I'm going to separate these. And I prefer to separate it by pulling it. And so I just like to put my finger or my fingernails sometimes on the edge and then just pull. I like to use a fan brush when I'm going to use Mod Podge. I just think it helps smooth things out well. I'm actually going to pour just a little bit of it out here so I can get to it a little bit easier. And then I can get me some more if I need to. And then just smooth it out with the Mod Podge that I have left on my brush. And then there's some parts that hang over, and I'll take my little sander and my little finger sander, and I'll get that off in just a moment. Alright, and then I'm just going to take my little finger sander, and I'm just going to very lightly sand down, and it just pulls that piece right off. Okay, so I have my wax here and just a wet paper towel, and I'm just going to go over these a little here and there, and then kind of wipe it off as I go and see if we can make that work. With our tags, we want to add them here. I've got a couple of different options. I thought, we could just slide it up underneath here, and that might work just fine. We also could possibly put it, just string it through the hole here. This is hemp cord that you buy in the jewelry section at Walmart, and then I thought we could just pull it through here and then pull it up on top like this maybe, and then tie a little knot. I want it to stay up here. Maybe I need to tie the knot kind of tight. Something like that. Well, that actually looks pretty cute. And then I thought we could cut these. And then I've got some really cute little rusty stars. It has some cute little buttons. Now if we want to do like a little bow. We also have this 18 gauge wire that I thought might look really good with it.